I'm Riley, and let's talk Frozen 2. This is a sequel to the first Frozen, if you didn't know, who was really popular for the Let It Go song, which I'm sure we've all heard 1,000,000,000,000 times by now. This movie is 1 minute longer than Frozen in total, so this one is an hour and 43 minutes. It feels like it, and I'll explain why. Because it is a good movie. I just want to point that out. The visuals and animation are stunning. Like, we're looking in the background going, wow, that's so pretty. And of course, the kid in front of us doesn't care. You know, they're waiting for the punchline and the joke and the snowman. And then this one had a lot of songs. I mean, a lot. And I know why they did it, because the first one became so popular with Let It Go, and people like, did you want to build a snowman? Those became kind of like staples for kids and just iconic in general for a lot of people. So they took that aspect of it and they just added a whole bunch more. And personally, I didn't like it. I enjoy movies with songs. I like musicals. And going into a movie knowing it's a musical. I knew this was a Disney movie, like, of course, who doesn't? But I didn't realize it was leaning almost more towards musical to me. That was one point where I just like, I don't know about this. And the reason why is when you add so many more songs, you're limiting, they're focusing on the songs and not so much the story. And then how are you supposed to have another great hit when you're just pumping out song after song like that, right? The songs fit the story. It's almost like they wrote the songs and then kind of wrote the story around the songs. That's what it felt like to me. But then you have, like, Kristoff sings in this one, which he didn't in the first one. But then it's like this weird, like, montage where he's staring off into the distance because he's, you know, missing Anna and wanting to be with Anna and all kinds of stuff like that. And then, of course, you know, they have Elsa, which is Idina Menzel, singing like 2 power ballads, but I don't think any of them are gonna be that hit that they're looking for again and Let It Go. I think that might have been a one-off, but who knows, maybe in a couple weeks we'll figure out which song is gonna blow up this time. But there's just so many that you see squirmy kids in front of you, because there's a point where kids, if it's not a catchy, almost like fun, kind of like that rhythm that gets kids interested, they're not paying attention anymore, right? And then this movie felt long in the fact that even though we know these characters, they decided to start it with them little, like, and the dad is telling them the story about the Enchanted Forest, you know, the mist, and how he went there as a boy, and the stuff that happened and that caused this mist to come up and block people from going in and people from coming out. So they spend, it doesn't feel like a lot of time, but then in the overall movie time, it felt kind of long because we're now resetting up everything for this movie. So in a way, I get that, but it still felt like, let's get the pace going. And they didn't even flash like that Frozen 2 title card until after they set up this whole movie with the little, when they're little, right? And then you flash forward, and I've read something before this movie even came out about how this is supposed to be 3 years after the first movie, although they never actually specifically say that in this movie, so that was an interesting choice. But they do show character progression. Like, these characters are older, they are in different places of their lives. Like, Elsa is running Arendelle, she's got peace, prosperity, like, she's being the badass queen that she is in a time of peace, you know? And then you have Anna, who's just running around being her, singing and all kinds of things. And Olaf, the snowman, is now, like, not a petulant teenager, but he's in that, like, deep thinking, like, why is the universe like that? The overthinkingness, that, like, quintessential questioning type thing. And you're just like, okay, but how's he gonna be the comic relief if he's, like, it was a little too much where, like, I don't think kids would understand that. So to me, this movie almost felt like it was for the kids who saw it 6 years ago are now preteens, teenagers, and the adults who saw it who will now get everything. Of course, there's funny moments for kids, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that I think kids won't get. So this felt more like an adult kid movie. I mean, kids, of course, are gonna love it, but at the same time, it's just the story changed. Everyone's a little bit older. Kristoff, you know, spoilers, is spending this whole movie trying to figure out how to propose to Anna, and Anna, of course, is worried about her sister, and Elsa's like enjoying her queendom, but she also I think she's restless. She wants to be free. She wants to use her powers more. She does more open and freely, but she's hearing that voice and she wants to go to it and she's not telling anyone. And then part of this movie is like Anna always being like, you have to talk to me. You can't do things without me. Like, we must always stick together. And then, of course, what are they gonna do? They separate. Yeah, that's just, you knew it was coming. There's a lot of things like that that you just know are gonna happen just by the way they're doing it and setting things up, which is kind of nice because you like to watch something where they set it up and then they knock it down. Like, that's always a good like feeling. You're like, yeah, they did it. So you have Elsa wanting to follow this voice, and she finally mentions it to Anna. And Anna's like, well, you're not going alone, I'm coming with you. And Kristoff's like, of course I'm coming too. And then Olaf comes and Sven comes, the reindeer. So what sets it all off is the voice Elsa hears in her, like when she's trying to sleep and it's bothering her. So she goes like to the edge of her kingdom and sends off like this huge ice power thing. And way off in the distance, you see this giant like snowflake that has 4 corners and like an empty middle type situation, and it's like the 4 spirits, the 4 elements, which is like earth, wind, fire, air. So they decide to do that, and right when she's like thinking of wanting to do that and she hasn't quite made up her mind, something happens and there's rumblings in her kingdom and it's pushing her people out, right? And you have this part where like is such a slow setup, and then we kind of get to this part where it just sort of plateaus in the middle a little bit, and then they move the people out of the kingdom, and then all of a sudden we're like, go, 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 go. And the movie, the pacing felt off in this movie. Like, you're watching something, like I said, it's only a minute longer than the first one, but it just felt long in some parts. Like, you have squirmy kids at the rows in front of you because it just hit a point where too many songs, the story was just trotting along, and then you hit like the last third of the movie ground running, you know, like you're all of a sudden trying to like going, what's going on, where are these pieces coming from? And then it does go back to the beginning, but the pace is just so fast, you almost just you blink and you feel like you missed something, right? And they could have just like taken that end and spread it a little bit more through the middle and just taken a song or 2 out. That is my feelings. Like, overall, this movie is good and I enjoyed it, but if they had just taken 1 or 2 songs out and spread the story out a little bit more, I feel like it would have just been amazing. Like, it's hard to make a sequel. We all know that, you know? Sequels could be good, bad, and ugly, you know? It's just hard, but it's great that they had the same cast come back. But now you have them trying to head into the mist, right? Which no one can go in and no one going out, and her powers let her in. And then once they're in, it just sort of takes off from there. Elsa's trying, she sees the little fire, or the wind spirit is first, and it's whipping around them and kind of not necessarily being mean, but not being nice. And then she sort of tames that one, and then the villagers appear. They are native to that forest and inside the mist, and then you find out there's still Arendelle soldiers in there, so they vow to protect her. And then of course, you know, they're about to fight, and she uses her powers to stop everyone, and they all freak out. And then this is where it's a little funny. Like, if you didn't see the first one, it doesn't matter, because Olaf the snowman pops in and does this really funny version where he like talks about the beginning, like the first movie and how everything happened, and then how, you know, Anna almost died, and he's like, oh, died, and then you know, Elsa saved her, and then he talks for the first movie all the way up until this point. And then you see the general, I think it's Mattias, who's Sterling K. Brown, who's just funny. He's like watching Olaf do this little speech to catch everyone up who's been in the forest, not in the, you know, away from the outside world. They haven't even seen the sky and the sun. They mention that, you know? And he's sitting there like, whoa, wow, ooh, those things happened, you know? And then you're doing that, and you find out through all this and her slowly conquering all these like elements and spirits, the next one is this super cute, I think it's a gecko lizard type character. He darts around everywhere and he sets fires everywhere. So Elsa's like stopping all the fires with her powers, and he walks up to her and she finally sees what he is. He gets like a little bit cornered, and she picks him up, and his flames sort of like melt off because he's happy to be with her, and it's cute, and like he helps lead her to the other ones. But that's of course when Anna comes in and gets this huge fight, and she's, well, not huge, but you know, fight where she's like, and Elsa's like, don't run into fire, and Anna's like, well, don't run into fire and have me chase you, like we're supposed to do things together, like you're not being cautious anymore. And she's like, I just need to get to that voice. And throughout the whole movie, you have Olaf mentioning that water has memories. So that's like a big thing in this. She figures out how to use her powers to like touch something and get a memory from the water. Like it brings up these cool ice sculptures, and they see that their mom is actually one of the native forest people who saved their dad and got him to the kingdom and ended up staying in town, and they had Anna and Elsa. So now they are the bridge between, you know, Arendelle and the forest people. So that's how they're able to unite everyone. And then they're continuing on their journey, and it gets to a point where Anna's always like, don't leave me behind, like we're in this together. So of course, what do? They separate, you know, and then they separate. So Elsa has to go to this way up in the north where she's been hearing that voice. Turns out it is water, it is a memory of her mom, you know, and then in that memory she's using her power so much she finds out her grandfather was the one who started the fight in the forest, which caused this rift between the forest people and Arendelle. And then she freezes because she uses too much of her powers, and she sends that last thing to Anna, and Anna gets that last message, but she's with Olaf. And when she gets the message, Olaf like melts or kind of dusts away into baby snow bunnies, and she realizes like once his magic is gone, that means Elsa's gone. And then she cries, and of course Anna, the one with no powers, ends up saving the day again. She knocks down the dam, the magic water comes, it bridges between the mist and the forest people, because actually the mist is gone, and Arendelle. Arendelle doesn't flood because Elsa unfreezes because Anna saved her. She protects her town. And then it ends on this great note where Kristoff is finally able to propose to her. She agrees. Elsa gives Anna, or makes Anna queen, which is great because she is a little bit better for the people. And then Elsa gets to live in the forest with all the spirits and just be her wild, free self, letting her magic go everywhere. All in all, I love this movie. It was great. I just wish it was a little less with the songs, but you know, they're trying to capitalize on what made the first one popular, and you can't really knock them for that. It's gonna do great no matter what, but it's definitely worth seeing. Bye!